I remember sitting in this crowd during the seventh grade and watching my brother's friends give speeches about their mothers, wondering if my brother, Thomas, would be the next to speak. If you know my brother, you know that he definitely did not give a speech that day, since it took planning more than one day in advance to do so. As every good little brother does, I have to prove that I am the favorite child, which is why I'm here now. A lot of you might not recognize the name Natalie Malouf-Carr, but you'd recognize her with a pan of her famous homemade cinnamon rolls in her hand. You know you have something special when 15 pans of sweet rolls are donated to the bake sale, but 0 are put out to buy since all the moms working it bought them immediately. I've been delivering these sweet rolls every Christmas for many years now, and I'm always asked the same question. How are you not overweight with your mom constantly making these sweet rolls? The true answer is that she blessed me with her great metabolism, along with many other qualities, like her nose and her inability to do a proper squat. While I get many characteristics from my mom, the most important has been her care for others and giving back to the community. MBA is a challenging place, and sometimes it can be hard to find who you are or where you fit within the community. My mom pushed me to find something unique where I can distinguish myself and also help others. This nudge came in the form of the MBA Service Club, where 3 of my best friends and I serve as officers to help encourage and inspire others to give back to the Nashville community. One thing that my mom is great at is talking to others and engaging with others in the room. Like a lot of boys at MBA, I get very nervous when it comes to public speaking. So my mom made it her mission to help me in this area. I still remember in the 7th grade when we were given the speech competition for the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. There was a large cash prize for the 2 finalists, but that incentive gave me no motivation to speak in front of hundreds of my peers. My mom came to me and told me her signature catchphrase, "Want a bet?" Every time she said this phrase, I knew she had a plan in mind with a good reward at the end. This time, she took advantage of my massive ice cream addiction and told me that if I made it to the finals, I could pick out any ice cream dessert of my choice. Somehow, the $3 ice cream got me more incentivized than the $100 cash prize, but it worked, and I made it to the finals. Unfortunately, my luck ran out as I faced the feared Chandon Kalimico in the finals. And for those of you that don't know Chandon, all you do need to know is he's now the #1 debater in the country. It was small incentives like these that helped me strengthen the bond between my mother and me. I've had many wonderful memories with my mom, but there's been difficult moments as well. In July of last year, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, just as my senior year is about to begin. It was definitely a sad moment for our family and friends, but my mom quickly stepped in and made 3 rules. The first is that it is my senior year, and I'm going to have a normal year. Nothing will be affected by her cancer, and we will move on as if nothing has happened. The second is that we will pray as a family every night to help deepen the bond between us. And the third was that profanity was now allowed in the house. Unfortunately, she made it very clear that this rule only applied to those with cancer, which I find highly unfair, but I wasn't going to call her out. My mom did exactly as she said she would. You can see her dropping off sweet rolls for the teacher's birthday months just before she returns to her car and drives to radiation. We pray together every night, a ritual that has helped us stay close, especially as I'm about to leave for college. And she will occasionally cuss at unnecessary things just to prove that she can and I can't. I was talking to my mom the other day about how she feels this whole journey with cancer has been. And she described it as a checklist, but when one box is marked as completed, a tougher one appears immediately. This made me think of our journey here at MBA. With every assignment we do, another, even more challenging one pops up immediately, and it seems to never end. Fortunately, I can say that it does eventually end, and all the hard work is worth it. Like cancer, some days here on the Hill are easier than others, but the journey as a whole is difficult. However, one thing is guaranteed with cancer and your time here at MBA. Once it is over, you will come out a stronger and more complete version of yourself. Mom, I'm excited for your journey with cancer to come to an end soon, and I hope you know how much support you have from the people sitting in this room today. I love you and all your great hugs. Keep fighting.
Good evening. My name is Edward Herlitzka, and I would like to start by thanking Mr. Joya for the opportunity to speak tonight about my mom, Ann Herlitzka. In my preparation for this speech, my hardest task was not thinking about all the wonderful things about my mom I could say, but rather hiding this task from her for the past few weeks. During Easter weekend, she casually mentioned that she was wondering if I were giving a speech, and even went to the extent of probing my sister and my dad, asking if they'd heard anything from me. While I feel that I kept it relatively under wraps, her suspicions were right. So here we are, Mom. I hope you like her speech. For those who don't know my mom, she began her life in Central Florida as the youngest of 8. Her family moved often, and her dad struggled to support their large family. But however difficult my mother's childhood was, those challenges have never been revealed. Her positivity and drive instead manifest themselves every day. Starting out at just 14 years old, she worked towards putting herself through college while supporting her parents and siblings at the same time. And it was here where she developed her admirable work ethic and diligence. She also gained a mindset that she still holds true today. Working is not for the improvement of her own life, but for the ones she loves. Later on, after marrying my dad and moving to Nashville, she climbed the corporate ladder and now works as a sales executive for a major consulting company. But even with her busy job, she still finds time to support and worry about me in every aspect of my life. One distinct memory I have of my mom took place in the spring of my 7th grade year at MBA when my lacrosse season was wrapping up. During the car ride home from practice, I told her that I wanted to play hockey in the fall and winter. While my mom always supports me with everything I set my mind to, I could tell I was really testing her. Up until this point, my mom had driven me to countless practices, not only for lacrosse, but also for basketball, baseball, football, and even soccer at one point. So this new plan would definitely be a change of pace. And after taking some time to think about the right response, she said something along the lines of, "Hockey is a great sport, and I know how much you love the Predators. But can you even skate?" Despite these relevant doubts, she still gave me her full support to try yet another sport. And over the next 5 years, my mom took conference calls from the car to drive me to the rink. She helped clean my sweaty gear after practices and games, and most of all, was always there for me when I struggled. I know for a fact that without her support and motivation to take on new challenges, such as playing hockey, I wouldn't have the confidence to be up here speaking to you all today. Students from other schools often say that MBA actually stands for Mama's Boy Academy. And this nickname may be a little bit cheesy, but I don't think that's such a bad thing. I, for one, am proud to be a mama's boy, and would even go to the extent of saying that she's not just my mom, but also one of my best friends. And over the years, I've learned that admitting this affection isn't as embarrassing as some of you younger guys might think. I cherish the relationship that my mom and I have built, both in the good times and the bad. From listening to Elton John's greatest hits, our all-time favorite, American Pie, to her reprimanding me when I drove 10 miles over the speed limit through Belmead the first day I got my permit. She's both my best and most honest supporter. Mom, there might be moments when you envy the unbreakable bond that Dad and I have over the Iowa Hawkeyes. Go Hawks. But just know you are and will always be the one I call first. I'm so thankful for everything you've done for me and the motivation that you've provided me with to chase my goals, or chase my dreams and achieve my goals. And whether it's leaving my suitcase in the middle of the airport getting a bad penalty in a hockey game, or forgetting to get you a card for Mother's Day that one time. You'll always find a way to forgive me with open arms. And that plaque I gave you for your office could not be more correct. Best mom ever. You truly are, and I love you more than you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Connor. Now,
Mr. Joy did not write my speech, I want to start out by thanking Mr. Joy for letting me speak, and Mrs. Crowther for coming to speak to us, and Mom. My mom, Rosemary Fisher, is one of the toughest people I probably will ever know. Usually when someone is describing his mom to others, he would use adjectives such as loving, caring, or beautiful. But while she is all of those things previously listed, the first word that comes to my mind when I think of my mom is tough. Don't let her small stature of 5'4" fool you. She's gone through Army boot camp, worked on a ranch in Wyoming, and birthed and raised 8 children, including 5 creaturely boys. She showed her dedication to her children by homeschooling all 8 of us while cultivating our faith, education, and love for one another, all while she worked various part-time jobs. Although those few things already make her sound pretty tough, I have a few specific examples that make me laugh to this day. I've seen my mom sprint barefoot, about 6 months pregnant, broom in hand, down our steep driveway chasing my brother for talking back to her. She's also stood up to a 6'4" drunk homeless man who walked into church while all the other churchgoers stood by terrified. And she ran within a few feet of a fully grown black bear in Gatlinburg to grab my cousin and my sister and run them to safety. Now, I know after that track record, my mom probably sounds like a total beast, but believe it or not, she has a much softer side to her. I've always remembered this saying my mom used to tell me when I was about 5 or 6. She lovingly expressed, "Did you know that it said that God loves you more than your mother ever could?" Now, this perspective may not sound so crazy to me now, but when I was a kid, I just could not wrap my mind around this idea that someone loved me more than my own mom. Whether it was picking me up when I fell, making me her famous chicken noodle soup when I was sick, or giving me a hug before I went to bed, I knew I could always count on my mom for comfort and love. This dedication has never changed. I can still expect her warm oatmeal every morning before school, her favorite opera music blaring in our kitchen in the early mornings, or her insistent barrage of hugs and kisses before I leave to go anywhere, even if it means for her to have to sprint out to the car to do so. While we are very close, our relationship is a little bit more complicated than meets the eye. A few years back, every member of my family took a personality test, and the results came to show that my mother and I have the exact same personalities. We love to laugh and joke, but we are also very stubborn and can never be proven wrong. This personality trait has led us to butt heads on many occasions. I used to hate this similarity because when we argued, I could never win. But now I've come to appreciate how similar we are because it not only gave me a lot of practice and debate, but it also has showed me my own shortcomings and has made our relationship so much closer, for which I'm forever grateful. My mom has always been a little strict, a quality I absolutely hated when I was younger because I wasn't able to sleep over at people's houses or go to any parties. But I've now grown to appreciate her somewhat hard-nosed rules because ultimately it gave me the discipline and it showed me that she was looking out for my best interest. Her dedication to our family has never wavered one bit from her first child to her 3rd grandchild. And she shows every member of our family with the same bit of respect and love as she does the rest, and always does so with a smile on her face. Mom, you've changed my diapers, you've picked me up when I've been at my lowest points, and you've taught me how to love and be loved. I want you to know how much you mean to me and how much I appreciate everything that you've done for me, and how excited I am to have many more laughs with you and see how our relationship continues to develop. One final thing I would like to say is, Mom, I love you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marshall Green. Thank you all for coming here, whether you're a mom, a student, or even a firefighter. Today, I have the great honor to speak about my mom, and thank you, MBA, for giving me this opportunity. In simplest terms, my mom is a warrior. No, no, no. Not a literal warrior, sword by her side, marching into the field of battle. Instead, she's a spiritual warrior. After living with her for 18 years, I've realized there is nothing you can really do to slow Paige Green down. The year was 2016, easily the hardest year for my family. In the span of 2 months, my brother, Peyton, and I found out that my parents were getting divorced and that my mom got diagnosed with a life-altering, life-threatening disease where the symptoms can be buffered if there's substantial change in their lifestyle. Instead of cowering to this tsunami of adversity, my mom took both challenges head on. As our family separated, the bond between my mom and me grew stronger than I could ever imagine. Specifically, she took my brother and me on walks around our neighborhood, to dinners, and to the beach, just like we used to do as a core family. What was more important than any material action, however, was her unwavering love for my brother and I, always making sure that we were okay before any of her needs. While in search for her new lifestyle after this divorce, my mom simultaneously had to adjust her habits to keep this illness at bay. During one of the most difficult periods of all of our lives, my mom had to find avenues to manage her stress levels so that her sickness would not accelerate. As a result, she discovered the soothing yet complicated art of yoga. Today, she frequently goes to yoga to manage her stress and even teaches classes to spread its healing properties. I mean, right before I came up here, she even gave me a yoga move as I walked up to the podium. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe out. While her fight with this illness has yet to hit its worst stages, she's continued working full time, raising me as a single parent and maintaining good health. My mom is truly unstoppable. All right, that first little bit was a little intense, to be honest. Let's lighten things up a little bit. My mom has got to be one of the most creative people that I know. I've asked her all kinds of questions about the intricacies of life, and without fail, she always pulls out an idiom that I have never heard before. Most times, I have zero clue what it means, but thankfully, she's able to clarify it. Though not the most complex of the bunch, my favorite of her phrases is kill them with kindness. An adage that's something my mom always says, and a piece of advice that will stick with me for the rest of my life. She also finds various other ways to express her creativity. Most impressive is her newly found passion for painting. She's begun to display her portfolio in several venues, including in the art gallery in her own hometown, Selma, Alabama. However, not all creativity is equally amazing, because sometimes she uses this arsenal of creativity against me. Her favorite tactic is to start a conversation with a lighthearted tone, which then turns into an elaborated bait to walk the dog. For context, my mom and Pinky the dog share a magical bond. This bond is so special that Pinky refuses to be walked by anyone else. Since the long days at work keep her busy, someone must try to figure out how to tame this beast. Unfortunately, there's only one, and that's me. With that in mind, close your eyes and think about how you talk to your mom every day. Mine always starts with the following text messages. Hey Marshall, how was your day? I love you. I text back the elaborate, intricate, dare I say thought-provoking response of, it was good. And before the blink of an eye, my phone buzzes back with a message, have you walked Pinky? You need to walk her. Much to my dismay, I have to go on a dog walk, a chore which is consistently the most humiliating part of my day. As the ferocious, sassy, pearly white terrier drags all 6'6" around me, or all 6'6" of me, around the neighborhood while I embarrass myself. Poor Pinky, I really hate to say this, I really love you dearly, but my goodness, you are such a menace. And Mom, you are welcome. More memorable than any single dog walk is also our overlap in music. Every time my mom and I drive together, the most important question is, whose turn is it to play music? Most times, per usual, Mom wins. But you know what? That's not really a bad thing, because every single car ride becomes special when Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, or even Van Morrison comes on. However, the real fun truly begins when it's my turn. Every single time, without fail, I will always try to find the most outrageous and bombastic rap song that I can find to see, what does Mom think about it? And my favorite of all these interactions happened a couple years ago when I discovered the great rap pair of Outkast. My favorite song at the time was So Fresh and So Clean, and I decided maybe Mom would like it because we do have a lot in common, but the first time I played it for her, she was really, really, really confused. She didn't know what it meant or what's so good about being so fresh and so clean. And you know what? Who knows? But the next time we played it, guess what? We sang along, and it was a car ride to never be forgotten. And last, but certainly not least, she is one of the most dedicated people I know. I know if all 8 billion people in the world were against me, Mom has my back. She's the first one to drop me off at the airport at 5 in the morning for debate tournaments, and always the first one to be there when we land at midnight on a random Tuesday. And she extends this care to all of my friends, as she is one of the best hosts that I know, always making sure they're okay, and a friend of mine is a friend of hers. Every single time people come over to the house, the first question is Paige home? I want to see Paige. And sometimes they're disappointed, and sometimes they're excited. And the craziest part of all of this is I don't know how she does all of this while working a full-time job with shifts almost 12 hours long and still keeping this positive, genial spirit and making sure that everyone's doing okay and putting her needs before herself. Now, I just said a lot of stuff, maybe a little fast, but you know, it's not about what's said in this speech, it's about what you learn. And I could go on all day, all night, all into next week talking about how great my mom is, but more importantly, I hope this sparks an epiphany in my fellow classmates. Your mom is incredible, and you should cherish your time with her. First of all, for the younger audience, my mom was not always this old. Your mom was not always this old. Believe it or not, she was once our age. She was once in high school. At first, it always felt a smidge difficult and just a little bit uncomfortable to ask my mom for advice. Because how in the world would she understand my problems? I realize that Mom knows a lot more about the high school experience than I do, and probably you do, and I learned a thing or two, and now as I matured, she's consistently one of the first people I reach out to for advice. And don't be afraid to ask, because your mom will always love you, and it's never a bad idea to be honest. And lastly, for my fellow seniors, this is obvious. This is our last summer before substantial change, before we travel into greater parts of the world and begin our next chapter. And I'm sure your natural inclination will be to hang out with the boys. I love hanging out with the boys as much as the next guy, but this summer, it's incredibly important, probably more than ever, to leave some time for Mom. It's often easy to take your mom for granted because we've been around her every single day and we're used to all the great things that she does for us, but it's gonna be gone before you know it. For me, it would be walking the dog, unfortunately, or for you, it could be a good morning, or even your favorite meal. But as we get older, we will have dozens of friends, and for the cool people out there, maybe even hundreds, dare I say thousands. But you know what will always be true? You will only have one mom. And this is a long speech. I don't really know how to end it, but I think Kevin Durant in his 2014 NBA MVP speech said it the best. Mom, you believed in us, you sacrificed for us, you the real MVP. I love you, Mom. Thank you for everything.
I'd like to start off by thanking Ms. Crowther for coming and sharing her message tonight. It was really meaningful for me, and I know for a lot of us here tonight too. Thank you, Mr. Joya, for the opportunity to speak. I tried not to tell my mom that I was going to speak tonight, and I put a lot of work into it, and I was kind of suspectly printing out some papers on the way here, trying to hide it, and then I got here and my name was in the brochure. So it didn't go exactly as planned, but I think my mom would have figured it out anyway. She's a pretty smart lady. Not a lot gets past her, especially now that we have Life 360. One of her favorite sayings is that intelligence comes on the X chromosome, which isn't as much a compliment to herself as a shot at 3 boys that live in her house, 4, including my dad, she likes to say. And even our dog's a boy, so she likes to say she's surrounded. She got a welcome mat and that she put in front of our house. It says, "Just so you know, there's like a lot of boys in here," which she thinks is pretty funny. I'm not really sure, but she loves it. And so for her to survive in this masculine world, she's got to employ some more aggressive tactics. One of her favorites is the punishment bluff. She'll kind of come up with something really outlandish that she's not really going to do, but you can tell she's a little upset. Like whenever we talk back to her, she loves to say that she'll take my keys and drive me everywhere I need to go for a month, which I feel like would be a lot worse for her than it would for me. That's been floated out there ever since I started driving. Never happened, thankfully, for both of us. I think we're both grateful for that. And another one happened this holiday season. I must have said something pretty crazy to her. She said that she was going to burn my Christmas presents, which, thankfully that didn't happen either, but I kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to. It was a little crazy. And maybe so. And I think I'm giving out the impression here that my mom doesn't lay down the law, which is not true. I have a core memory from when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My dad said something a little bit off color to the dinner table, and my mom sent him to his room. And he actually went, and I was pretty shocked. I didn't know that was a thing. And then, younger me decided to try it, and it had the reverse effect. I found myself in my room. So I don't have the same, punishment power that she does. And she's also, for those of you who don't know, my mom's an artist. And so all of our, our house throughout my childhood is filled with a lot of beautiful paintings, thanks to her. And that creativity, she's funneled into her punishments as well. I'm notorious around our house for not cleaning up after myself after I cook. I like to cook. I'll make myself an after-dinner meal sometimes. And, one of the things I like to do is let the pan soak in the sink because it's easier to clean, right? That's what I tell her. It's easier to clean. And she's not really a fan of that. And, one day, I'd left the pan to soak in the sink and overnight, and then I left for school to let it soak for a little longer. And, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it'd be fine. My mom reminded me a bunch of times, super reasonably, that I should probably clean it, and I didn't. And, when I came home, I was kind of expecting to hear something about it. A normal mom might, shoot you a text with a picture of the sink and be like, "Hey, you should probably clean this up." But none of that happened, and I got home, and the pan was no longer in the sink. So I started to think to myself, look at me and my mom, what a team we are. I'll leave the pan to soak in the sink, and she'll clean it up real quick, and we're just working together, and this is awesome. And, as I was getting into bed that night, I was thinking about what a great team we were. Me and my mom, I was in a really good mood, and then, I pulled back my blankets, and there was the pan. And so I ended up having to clean the pan and wash my sheets, and it was a whole thing. And I kind of started to realize that maybe I should do that. So now sometimes I'll clean up after myself. So thanks, Mom. Along with being a creative punisher, my mom's also an athlete. She hooped back in the day at Harding Academy. In the 6th grade, she started on the 8th grade team, so she's pretty athletic. The only story she'll tell you is that she scored her first points for the other team, which isn't ideal. But she was good back in the day. Today, I don't know. Remains to be seen if she can still hoop. But now she's taken her athletic prowess and focused it on tennis. Right? She'll play tennis with some of her mom friends at the Sequoia Tennis Club. And I don't know if you guys know, but this gets pretty intense. I wasn't really aware of the double life that some of you tennis moms live. But it gets pretty crazy out on the court. And my mom was telling us at dinner, my dad and my brothers and I, about one of her matches one day. And she was telling us there was a little trash talk going on in between the sets. And so obviously, my meathead dad and brothers and I, we got into it. We got a little more interested than usual. We were like, come on, what happened? Like, was it crazy? And, as my mom and her partner, they were switching sides in the middle of the set. As you have to switch sides. I didn't know that before the story. She'd informed me. But, switch sides. And her opponent that maybe she'd been talking a little trash with, we don't really know if it was my mom or her, And it remains to be seen who was the instigator. But, this lady walked past my mom and kind of checked her in the shoulder. And gave her a little stare down. So this, fired up my dad and my brothers. Were like, oh, what the, come on. If we were there, she wouldn't have done that. And we started, marching around the house, getting all fired up. And, we probably cared about it more than she did. And, we were like, finally, after we calmed down, we were like, so what'd you do about it, Mom? And she's like, oh, I just laughed it off. And, we walked off. And they ended up winning the match, which is pretty cool. But my mom's kind of always been like that. It takes a lot to rattle her. My dad and, brothers and I are kind of intense. We'll come home and, we'll meathead around and get all fired up about stuff and get angry and say mean things to each other. And she just always has this calming presence. Her, peace and gentle spirit just kind of percolates into us. So after we've been home for a little while, we'll all calm down and we'll reach her level. And she does that for everyone that she comes in touch with. And it's really been a blessing in my life to have that role model around my house. And, Mom, when I go to college this summer, I'm going to miss, all of our late nights going to get food and watching movies and all the terrible puns you make in the kitchen, that you laugh at regardless of whether they're funny or not. And, we've joked about, you're always joking all the time. I'm asking you for advice about girls and all types of stuff, and you're always coming through for me. And, I'm going to miss that, but one thing I'm going to try to take with me is how you've taught me to live with a sense of grace and peace and not letting anything rattle you and always being there for other people. You always drop everything for us. I can't remember can't even count all the times that I've, called you from school, left my cleats at home, left my practice clothes at home, left a book for English at home, and you're always, you're ready to drop everything to come and help me and fix it, even though you should probably let me learn the lesson sometimes. You just can't find it in your heart to let me suffer, so thank you. You've been an amazing example of peace and kindness throughout my life, and I just want to say I'm really grateful for that. And, even when I'm in college, I'm going to try to take that with me. You'll be gone, but I promise I'm still going to call you for advice. You always know what's best for me. Like when I was in 3rd grade and you let my pet turtle out into the backyard and told me that it died to save it from the cardboard box that I'd been keeping it in, which looking back, you probably knew what was best. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue to go to you for advice, Mom, and thank you for everything. I love you.
All right, what's up? Like many others before me, and even more after, my mom did not know I was speaking today until the brochure. So, surprise, I guess. Going to mother-son breakfasts and dinners over the past 6 years has always been something my mother and I love to do. I remember seeing these seniors going up to the podium and surprising their moms with beautiful speeches and thinking to myself, I can't do that. No way, as I've never been a big public speaker. But I also remember my own mother tearing up or even crying unabashedly at those speeches that were not even about her. And that is why I am here. I'm here to make my mama cry on purpose for fun. On a serious note, I would never want to make my mom cry in any case other than this one. But I do want to create one moment, one single event that we could look back on that would summarize our relationship through my time here on the Hill. Christine Marie Code Cantrell, a unicorn, born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. She's 5'2", beautiful red hair, and the freckles to match. She is 28 years old and has been since the year 2000. At least that's what she keeps telling me. She and I share a lot of qualities, both internally and externally. Both of us love people and love building relationships, but our social battery has a short lifespan. We can go out one night, but the next few nights are reserved for some quality alone time. She spends that time watching NCIS or playing those little word games on her phone, while I spend mine watching movies, watching sports, or more than likely doing homework. Externally, she's always been told she looks like Reba McEntire, while I've always been told I look like my mom, so take that as you will. But I don't mind looking like my mom. I wouldn't have minded missing out on one key trait, and that's her height, or rather her lack of height, so that'd be nice to miss out on. My mom has always wanted what's best for me. For starters, she went to that, this is ready, purple, red, and gold educational institution on Franklin Road for high school, but she sent me here. So right off the bat, advantage. Not only did she put me in the right places and positions to succeed, but she also encouraged me to take full advantage of my opportunities. Throughout the past 6 years, she has strongly, and I mean strongly, encouraged me to stay on top of my work. She has analyzed each and every one of my quarterly report cards since the 7th grade. Even when the grades looked good enough for her and felt good enough for me, the quarterly comments that my teachers wrote were always what stuck out to her. There was always something that I could do better, especially outside the classroom. Interact more in class, ask more questions, and go to help sessions even if I didn't need to, just to show I was eager to learn and to build a relationship with my teachers. Most of the time, I just shrugged this off and took my grade for what it was, but now I really do regret not getting to know more of those teachers. Most of the time, my mom sent me to MBA, not because I'll be more prepared academically, but also because MBA teaches you to be more than a student. It offers valuable life lessons and relationships that extend beyond the classroom. So when there were downs, she would encourage me. But when there were ups, she would humble me. She has always reminded me never to get too big for my britches. Never bite off more than I could chew, for I'm human after all. She has taught me to treat everyone as equals. Baron de Montesquieu once said, to become truly great, one must stand with people, not above them. Now that doesn't necessarily come from her, and definitely doesn't come from her father in education, but it does sum up how she has taught me to act in regards to my stance with other people. Some quotes that she would use to remind me of my place are, humble yourself before the Lord, and he will lift you up, James 4:10. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble, James 4:6. And most notably, pride comes before the fall, Proverbs 16:18. She didn't just command this of me either. She herself lived a life exemplary of true humility. I believe this is not just my mother, but also all the other mothers in this room. Y'all understand what it is like for your works to be underappreciated and underacknowledged. We also don't mind that too much because you know they are not undervalued. Mothers sacrifice their time, their money, their sleep, their ability to work a job, their wants, and oftentimes their needs to keep their family happy, to keep their kids happy. And my mom is definitely no different. As all parents do, my mom and dad tend to have some disagreements every once in a while. In the event of said disagreement, or disagreements, plural, my mom sacrifices her pride, her stubbornness, and even her competitive spirit, which is fierce, to preserve my dad's feelings. She may not win in the short run, but we all win in the long run as a family. That is true humility, and that is true sacrifice. And I'd like to thank both you, Mama, and the rest of the mamas in the room for making that sacrifice. Although I could go on and on about her, I'll conclude with this viewpoint. My mom has always wanted to be there for me. While playing sports, I didn't understand why my mom wanted to go to all my games. I couldn't fathom driving to JP2 to watch JV football, to Chattanooga or Memphis to watch a varsity game we both knew I wasn't going to play in, or even just to 42nd Avenue to watch 7th grade lacrosse. This truly was mind-boggling to me. I even tried to tell her, no, Mama, you don't have to come. I don't want you to come. It doesn't make any sense for you to come. But on December 1st of this past year, I finally realized that the love of a mother is not practical. It is unconditional and beyond reason. It's a truly radical love. Walking off the field in tears after losing a heartbreaker in the state championship game, I shared a moment with my mom that I'll remember for the rest of my life. Just as we did after every game in my sports career, I shared one last hug with my mom. Both of us were crying, not because we lost, not because it was the last time I'd ever play football, but because it was the last time we'd share that post-game hug, and because 15 years of memories were racing through our minds. 15 years of post-game hugs in dugouts, in the stands, on the sideline, or in the north side end zone at good old Tommy Owen. Looking back on that moment, I can see why she stressed the importance of being there and emphasized the art of showing up. And I can't wait to practice that art myself with my friends, family, future kids. To conclude, I'd like to quote one of my mom's favorite songs, a song that means a lot to the both of us. The song that she decided 18 years ago would be the song played on my wedding day for our mother-son dance. This is A Song for Mama by Boyz II Men. There isn't anything or anyone that I could be, and it just wouldn't feel right if I didn't have you by my side. You were there for me, to love and care for me when skies were gray. Whenever I was down, you were always there to comfort me. And no one else can be what you've been to me. You will always be the girl in my life for all times. Mama, mama, you know I love you. Mama, mama, you're the queen of my heart. Thank you.